Welcome, Right Riders. Thank you so much for joining me on today's live stream. If you're catching us on the replay, sorry we missed you, but so glad that you tuned in. Are you new to self-publishing books? Perhaps you've been around self-publishing books for years now. In either case, today I want to share with you some great ways to make more money selling books, especially here in Q4. So if you have ideas that I don't cover or that you think maybe only you know about, make sure you put that in the chat and in the comments below. I do want to check out the chat real quick and see who all's in the house. Very first person here, of course, Mr. Self-Publishing with Walter Wyburn. Glad to have you here, buddy. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, you absolutely should. It's amazing. His contents are really short, sweet, and to the point. And he shows you other ways that you can make the most of selling your books on your own website, which is basically what everybody's goal should be. Let's see who else is in the house. Let's see. We have Sarah's in the house. Glad to have you here. And if you're anybody here, if you're new, if you're lurking, just put hashtag new just to let me know that you're here. And let's see, we've got Sludge Painters in the house. The lady writes, Katrina's here. Glad to have everyone. All right, so I want to get this. I have 5 tips, and the first one is you want to publish all varieties of your book that's possible. And by that, I mean, of course, you got paperback, you've got ebook, and you've got audiobook. But maybe you're self-publishing no content books, and you can't do ebooks or audiobooks. Don't worry, I got you covered there too, because more than just paperback, ebook, and audiobook, there's hardcovers that you can do through like Lulu, or you can do through Barnes & Noble or ingramspark. Also, what about publishing multiple sizes of your book? So this will all depend on the niche that your book is in. Obviously, children's books you're going to want to be bigger, as well as books for elderly people will probably be bigger so that you can put bigger font. But you want to think outside the box and make sure that you don't leave any money unaccounted for or any money on the table, as some people may say. So again, multiple sizes. So you can make a 5x8 or a 6x9 version of your book that you already have, and you can call it a pocket edition. Now, if you already have a book that's 6x9, you can make a bigger version, maybe 8x10, make it bigger font, and you can put it as large print. Now, note, at least for KDP, large print means it has to be 16-point font or bigger. So also, what about spiral bound notebooks? You can do those on places like lulu.com. So again, you want to make sure that your book is in as many different formats as possible, as long as it makes sense. Because like I said, obviously no content books you can't put on ebook or audiobook, but you know, there are other options as I just stated. So number 2, self-publish books wide. I've covered this on quite a few occasions, but it goes without saying that it needs to be repeated. You can use platforms like Draft to Digital, Smashwords, or even publishdrive for your ebook format. Now, if you're going to do that, make sure that your book is not in KDP Select, because obviously if it's in KDP Select, then it can't be anywhere else on the internet in ebook form. For your paperback, you can, or hardcover, you can do ingramspark, Barnes & Noble Press, lulu.com. What about audiobooks? Well, believe it or not, ACX is not the only game in town when it comes to audiobooks. You can try something called Findaway Voices. Findaway Voices, the last time I checked, I think it was like 36 different platforms that it goes out to, but they're always adding more. It might be more than 36 by now. So again, regardless of what format your book is in, don't necessarily leave it just on the Amazon platform. Your readers and your listeners are everywhere in the world, and not everywhere is Amazon the big man on campus. In a lot of places, Kobo maybe, or 24 Symbols if it comes to ebooks. So you need to make sure that the more places your customers are at, the more places your book should be at. Now, there are some exceptions, especially when it comes to the ebook format. And I can do that in another video, but if you're seeing a great deal of page reads and downloads, then maybe you want to stay in the KDP Select program. But, majority of us, the KDP Select program is a great place to be in for the first 90 days, get that first bump and promotions. But after that, your best bet is most likely to go wide and try it out. Make sure that your 90 days on KDP Select is over. Try it out going wide with the ebooks. If it doesn't work out, take it all down. Make sure they're all down, and then you can go back to KDP Select. But keep in mind, KDP Select only has to do with your ebook. Your paperback audiobook can be anywhere. Okay, number 3, use the platform-based perks. So you've got your book on these different platforms. Great. So now your customers can find them wherever they're at. But there are different perks depending on what site you're on. And you want to make sure that you take advantage of as many perks as you can. For example, if you do decide to stay with KDP Select, then you absolutely should be running at least a free promo or a countdown deal once every 90 days. I mean, you might as well. You're getting it for free, right? Now, audiobooks. If you have your audiobooks on Findaway Voices, you can use the promo codes that they give you and give those out to help promote your book. What about ACX? Well, ACX also has promo codes, but they also have something called Whisper Sync and Immersion Reading. Now, these things may be new to you. So some of you are probably wondering, what is Whisper Sync? Basically, Whisper Sync is a product that ACX offers where the audiobook and the ebook format of your books are linked. So that way, when the customer is listening to it on the audiobook and they put it down and they read it later on when they're going to bed, it links it so they can alternate between the audiobook and the ebook format and pick up right where they left off. Pretty cool, right? Now, but if that's Whisper Sync, then what is immersion reading? Now, I'll be honest, this is something that is fairly new to me. Immersion reading is slightly different in that immersion reading allows you to listen to the audiobook at the exact same time as you're reading the ebook. So I find this super great feature, especially for children's books. So the child can listen to the audiobook while they're reading the ebook. Pretty darn nifty. But now, all books don't qualify for Whisper Sync or immersion reading. In fact, ACX keeps the actual qualifications pretty close to the vest. So the best bet and the best advice that I can give you is to just email support@acx.com, give them your title, your author name, and the ASIN, and then ask them to see if your book can be flagged for Whisper Sync and immersion reading. The worst they can say is no, right? Number 4, this one cannot be stressed enough. It is network. Okay, there are so many Facebook groups out there. By the way, we have one, Self-Publishing Today. If you're not a member, go to Facebook, go and request to join. Make sure you answer the 3 questions, and you'll get accepted. But you've got all these groups where you can network with one another, and I know that most authors are probably introverts by nature, but by networking, you exponentially grow your reach for you and your authorship. So what you can do is you can do email swaps, not to be confused with review swaps, which are wrong, and they go against Amazon's terms of service. But email swaps are okay. Basically, what an email swap is one author will promote my book in their email newsletters, and then in return, I will promote theirs. You can also do collab projects, or you can work together with someone and do a collaboration book. You can also do what I like to call genre hops, where we actually used to do these quite a bit on Facebook, where you get a bunch of people in your genre, a bunch of authors, and you just hop from one. You do some kind of contest or whatever, and you get your audience to hop from your page to the next person in line, and then they do the same thing. So you're getting more people familiar with you that wouldn't necessarily even know that you are an author in that particular genre. And that's a great way to again, network and help each other out. When you go and join these groups and reach out to these authors, the important part is to make sure that you stress to them what's in it for them. Don't just be all about me. You want to make sure that they know that this is how I can help you, this is how you can help me, and everybody benefits. And the number 5th way that you can make more money selling books is create promotional files. This can be used for, like I said, the genre hops. It can be used for email swaps. It can be used for if you're doing any kind of promotion. I know that Black Friday as well as Cyber Monday are coming up. And so if you plan on doing any kind of promotion, maybe you're going to make your books, lower price for that particular day or that particular weekend. You want to make sure that you have promotional files available. The great thing is if you do them right, you can actually use the same promotional file over and over again, just swapping out a few things, like maybe swap out the price, swap out, the image of your book, or if you can use it for a different book. Make it so it's different every time, so that way people don't think that they're seeing the same ad over and over again. But you want to make sure that you can create these promotional files so they're ready for you at any time. Because you don't know when another author is going to watch this video and they might reach out to you to do an email swap, or they might reach out to you to do some kind of collaboration. And so it's great to have these things ready. Now, you can use sites like Canva or BookBrush to create these promotional files for you. Speaking of BookBrush, I actually am going to be working on a tutorial to show you guys exactly how you can utilize BookBrush to make promotional files, as well as maybe even do some trailers, some videos. And so you want to stick around and wait for that. That'll be coming in the next week or so. So those were the 5 ways that I thought of that can help you sell more books, especially here in Q4. Again, you want to make sure that your books are in all the possible formats they can be. You want to make sure that they're in all the places they can be. And don't forget about offline. Again, reaching out to libraries, reaching out to bookstores, which I've done a video on that where I show you how you can get your book into independent bookstores. If you're doing children's books, don't underestimate or forget about toy stores and places like that. Again, you want to make sure that you utilize the platform-based perks, depending on what platform you're on. Network, and of course, create those promotional files. So I do want to get to the chat, but first I do have 2 pretty big announcements that I want to make. The first announcement is, since we're about to hit the peak of Q4 and the holidays, this is going to be my last live for the rest of the Q4. But don't worry, I will still be doing pre-recorded videos every Wednesday. And I do have some really great tutorials lined up. So I know you guys really love those tutorials. The tutorials are what I get the majority of my comments about. So, don't think I'm going away. Absolutely, we'll still be doing during Q4. We'll be doing videos every Wednesday, but they will be pre-recorded videos, and a lot of them will be tutorials. I might even throw some extra videos in there throughout the week. So you definitely want to stick around and see what comes up. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the bell notification so that way when these new videos come out, you'll know about them. And the second announcement, which I'll remind you about later, but I actually did a collaboration with self-publishing with Dale L. Roberts. We started working on it a while back, and we finally got it done. And it turned out amazing. We're actually going to do a back-to-back premiere with it this Saturday, which is going to be Saturday, November 23rd. It's going to start at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And it'll start out with Dale's video, and it'll lead right into mine. Again, there'll be premieres, so we'll be able to chat. And so you definitely want to be there. Mark it on your calendar. And I hope to see you guys all there. Now let's see who all is in the chat. And while I'm flipping over to the chat, let me know if there were ways that you thought of that I didn't mention, because there are plenty of ways that you can make more money, especially here in Q4, that I didn't cover. And I mean, I could have done a much longer video, but let's see who all is in the house. Okay, we got Julie's in the house. The lady writes, I like Lulu. I use Lulu for my hardcover. I've used them for spirals that turned out really nice. Viewing from Illinois. All right. That's awesome. Let's see. Whoop, that just jumped. And yeah, Katrina's in Illinois as well. Kevin McGuire's in the house from the Ukraine. Glad to have you here, buddy. Olivia. All right. Let's see. I love when you guys are chatting back and forth. Let's see. Anybody have any questions, concerns, comments? Oh, that just jumped on me. Okay. We will. Okay, I'll reset that. Let's see. Oh, that's much better. Okay. Yes. Oh, yes. Good point, Katrina. Hit the like button. Let's see. Effie's in the house. Glad to have you here. You missed the beginning. Don't worry. You can catch it on the replay. But I know I went over that really quick. I've got some comments on these videos where my lives are too long. So I wanted to get the content really condensed in there. And but yeah, so there's five ways that you can make more money selling books. Let's see. A lot of people from Illinois, looks like. Great. Love the Toy Story idea. Or Toy Store idea. I actually have my books in numerous toy stores, including in cities and even states that I've never stepped foot in. So that's fun. There's a few independent, locally run ones I've definitely hit up. Yeah, especially if you're doing children's books. So many people don't think of that. They think toy stores are just for toys, but they're not. If you can put. Matter of fact, there is the local card stores. Where they sell like cards, and I don't want to say the brand name here, but anyway, they sell cards and keepsakes and stuff like that, and I have my books in there as well. So any kind of, especially in your area, local stores love to help support local authors, and so you definitely want to reach out to them. You may have to strike up a deal, at least with the first book or two, and have them put it on consignment, perhaps, where you give them the book and then they pay you when it gets sold. Just so that way, it's whatever you need to do to get your foot in the door with them, I would suggest doing. So if you can afford to give them one or two books to put on consignment, if they're not willing to do it any other way, I'd go for it. Let's see. Does Lulu work the same way, or do you have to order your books when it's live? No. Good question. No, it's the same as with KDP. You can order an author copy before it's live. You can order a proof. And I absolutely suggest you do that, especially when it's your first time using any new platform. I've used Barnes & Noble Press. Whenever you're, especially if you're using a platform for the first time, you want to get a feel for how their paper feels, how they're, how real to life the colors are. Because that's one complaint I've seen when it comes to KDP is some people, depending on, especially if they're using more pastel colors, they say that they've had issues with how it looks when they get their proof. And these are things that you want to know, because you want to know what your customers are going to get before you find out in your reviews. So again, anytime you use a new service, absolutely get yourself a proof. If you're doing things like no content books and stuff like that, you still want to get your first proof, But then after that, if you really can't afford it, like if I'm putting up 50, let's just say line journals, even though I don't do line journals anymore. But if I'm putting up 50 line journals, I may order one. I look at it, I see how the cover looks, I see how the interior looks, if it's a new interior that I've created. And once I'm happy with how it looks, then I really don't need to buy one for the other 49. The lady writes, you just answered it. You can buy them beforehand. When you do an email swap, do the books need to be in the same genre? They don't need to be, Charlie, but it helps because, typically if I write children's books and you write horror, the chances of my readership going to be interested in your genre is going to be a lot smaller than if we're both in children's books or both in horror books. So that's the reason why. Like I said, they don't have to be, but both authors will benefit more if you're in the same genre. The only exception to that would be if you do with your list and the other person does with their list what I do, which is I actually ask questions when they sign up on some of my lists, or I'll follow up with a survey and I ask them what other genres they read. And if the other person does that as well, and you know that they're going to be, when they do their email, they're going to be targeting the people that are interested in your genre, then yeah, that'll work. But just the simplified way to do it is to pick an author that books in the same niche that you do, so your readerships have a much better chance of helping each other. Let's see. Are you applying to Ignite? I don't know if you're asking me, Ellie. I'm not. But maybe other people are. Effie, working on my first book. Awesome. On consignment deal with a local gallery right now. Formerly sold my art there. Okay, so you already have a rapport with them. Great way to use your connections. Again, networking. Great way to use your connections that you already have to your benefit. Awesome. Just don't over inventory. Excellent point. And that same thing can be said about when you do a trade show or you do a craft fair or anything like that. Which, fun fact, a lot of people think that craft fairs are all about like knitting and woodworking and stuff like that. So I do books. There's no reason for me to be there. Absolutely not true. I have seen and done numerous craft fairs in particular where I sell my books or where I've seen other authors sell their books, and we do really well. But if you're doing it for the first time, just like what Effie was saying they're doing, is I wouldn't go and buy hundreds of books. I typically, if it's my first time at that particular craft fair, or if it's my first time at that, like maybe I've done it for that organization before that's hosting that, but this location or this date and time is different than what I'm used to. If it's my first time being at that specific one, then I usually will go a little shorthanded. I will go with probably 25 books. Sometimes I've gone with less. And it all depends on your budget. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a laptop open to your page on Amazon. So if you run out, and make sure you get like the Square or something like that where they can prepay and they can order it right there. Or you can just have them log in as themselves on Amazon and they can order it for you. The important point is that you have something there for them to purchase it right then and there, so they don't go home and forget about you and don't end up buying your book. Let's see. Can you go over the five ways again? Charlie asks. I can go over them briefly. Otherwise, you can just go back and watch the video. It's publish all varieties possible, go wide, use the platform-based perks for the platforms you're on, network, which we're kind of talking about now, and then create promotional files. So that's a brief overview. Later on, you can go back and watch a video. It's pretty short, but I do talk about, especially when it comes to ACX, if you're doing audiobooks, the whisper sync and immersion reading, you absolutely want to find out more on that. Let's see. I wrote grief books. Not many people want to write about it. So just trying to find... Okay, so if you're writing grief books, what you may want to do is see if you can find someone who writes poetry. A lot of people that read poetry are into are used to some of the darker sides. And so that's someone that is not necessarily in your genre, but you very well may have crossover in your viewership. Now, that said, keep in mind that if you're doing an email swap, you need to have an email list as well, and make sure that you're just open with the size of your email list. I only have 2 people on my email list. Just tell them that. That way they know going in. Now, obviously, the more people you have, the more chances they're going to be interested. But some of my lists are very small. Some only have, 25 to 50 people. But they're extremely, they read everything. They click on links. They're very immersed into what that particular niche is for. And so even though I have a smaller list, I can show them that the conversion rate is very high. So that's something that you just want to keep in mind. But yeah, in cases like that, you absolutely can go outside your niche. Just something that's similar. Good question. Can I do an email swap with one of my books? Okay. I'm not quite sure what your question is. I'm going to leave. What an email swap is, like I said before, somebody, like if you were to reach out to author B and you say, hey, I just launched this new book. I would love to promote one of your books in my next newsletter. Would you be willing to promote this book in your newsletter? That's what an email swap is. You're not actually swapping email addresses. You're including someone else in your email when you send out your next newsletter. And you also want to make sure that you let them know and know how much the other person, like the frequency of those emails. So like if I'm sending out an email list or sending out a newsletter to my email list once a week, which I do, and I go with an author that only does it once a month, then that's something I need to know, because that may mean that I'm only going to promote theirs in one of my newsletters because I don't want to promote them 4 times and they've only promoted me once. But if they have a larger audience, then maybe them promoting it once is equal to, it gets as many eyes as if I were to promote it 4 times. So you want to know the size of their audience, again, what kind of genre they're in, and the frequency of their that they send out their newsletters. Let's see. Okay, it looks like maybe you guys are talking to each other. That's awesome. Kevin McGuire said he applied to Ignite. Love to hear how that worked out. The lady writes says she has applied as well. I create educational workbooks. I'm a little worried about competition with the new Ignite program. Plus, I live in Canada and can't sign up to Ignite. Okay, let's see. Are you familiar with writing companion workbooks to go with a fiction book? Yeah, Lois, that's I've shown people how to do that. Yeah, absolutely, and that's one great way to add to your repertoire and add to the series that you have, even if it's not a series. But if you're trying to build a brand, adding a workbook to a fiction book is a great way to do, or even a no-content book. Even a non-fiction book. Non-fiction books kind of lend themselves more to doing a workbook, but you can absolutely do it for a fiction book as well. You can start off by, you can have maybe a map of your particular world or city or town, whatever, is in your story. You can have sections in there where they rewrite their favorite scene. You can even make it a contest if you want, and tell them if they send to you their rewrites for chapter 5, and whoever has the best, whichever story you like the most, maybe you'll add it into your next story, or they'll get some kind of prize. So again, not only making the companion book, but also making it into like a game, and making it so more and more people are encouraged to buy that because they want to win, a copy of your next book, or they want a shout out in your next acknowledgement page in your next book, something like that. Whatever you can do that that will entice them to participate and to go out and buy that workbook. Let's see. They haven't replied yet, Kevin says. Sorry if I missed this answer earlier in KDP Select. When is the best time to offer my ebook for free? There's really no right or wrong. Here's what has worked the best for me. Typically, your higher sale days, from my experience, are going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so when I do a free promotion, I would always do it Monday through Thursday. And that way it builds up the hype, and then those people, those sales will just some will trickle back in and increase your sales on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, here's the thing that I cannot stress enough, and I've learned this from my own past mistakes, as well as other people I've talked to, and some clients that I've worked with, and coaching students. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to put your book on, and this goes for free promotion as well as for if you do a KDP countdown deal. You got to promote it. You got to let people know it exists. Don't just, and it comes the same thing with, when you do a book launch. If you want to increase your sales, you want to increase your downloads, you've got to let people know it's there. You can't just expect to, set it and forget it, or publish and pray, as some people call it. You need to actually take the steps and promote it. And your best bet is to promote it ahead of time, so people are in anticipation of it, know it's coming. Mark it on their calendars, make a big deal about it. The other thing I would suggest, especially when it comes to the free, don't do all 5 days at once. Do maybe 1 or 2 days, maybe 3, and make those days a huge deal. Because if it's a week, people have a tendency to put things off. It's going to be all week, I'll just do it later. And then the week comes and goes, and they never did it. So if you are going, and that's the great thing about the countdown deal, is it's got that calendar, or the clock, and it ticks down and tells you how much time you've got left before the price is going to go up. So those would be my quick suggestions when you do a free or a countdown deal. Let's see. What is Ignite? Walter Wyburn says, Ignite is educational digital downloads, like teachers pay teachers. I've heard of Ignite. To be honest, the reason why I haven't signed up for it is just because, just like Walter, I don't have enough information on it right now, and I'm not going to just throw something up there and until I've done my research on it. But yeah, I do know quite a few people who have signed up for it. I don't know if anybody that I know has actually been accepted yet. You're quite welcome, Lois. Let's see. We got 22 viewers in the house and 7 likes. Hey, if you like this content, give it a thumbs up. Hey, if nothing else, did any of you, have you ever heard of the Whisper Sync? And I know some of you may have. But what about immersion reading? Was that something new? It's funny because I found out about immersion reading because I did just what I suggested, which is I sent an email to support at ACX, and I said, how can I get my book in Whisper Sync? I knew what Whisper Sync was. and they came back and said, yeah, your book's already signed up for WhisperSync and immersion reading. And I was like, whoa, what's immersion reading? And that's when they informed me of what it was. So, and again, especially if you write children's books, immersion reading is a great way, and I would include that in your promotional files. Now, keep one thing in mind, and this goes for WhisperSync as well as immersion reading. And I know Chris Fox has talked about this in the past, but if you make a change to your book, especially if you're doing fiction and you've got novels out there, if you make a change to the book, maybe you clean it up a little bit, you published it a couple years ago, and your grammar's better, or maybe you can afford a better editor or what have you, and you go in and you make some changes, that could throw off WhisperSync. So you want to make sure that if you do something like that, that you reach out to ACX and you just let them know, because the chances are it's not going to, if you make some wording changes, again, it's not going to link up with the audio version anymore, because you're not going to re-record the audio just because you made some typo changes. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. Yay, managed to make it live. Greetings from New Zealand. Awesome. Glad to have you here from New Zealand. That's awesome. Effie says, are you in the Amazon Associates program? No. I'm in the Amazon Associates. I don't know if you're talking to me or if you're talking to somebody else. But yeah, the Amazon Associates program, for those of you who may not know, is basically you can get a little bit of extra commission on anything people buy on Amazon. And what you do is you just go to Amazon Associates and just Google it, Amazon Associates program, and you can sign up, and then there'll be this little thing on the top of your Amazon page, and you click on it and you can just get a shortened URL, and anytime someone clicks on that shortened URL, it'll bring them to that product. So let's say your book. So you can do this for your book and get even more commission on your book, more than just the normal royalties. Now, I mean, you're talking, it's just a small percentage, but it all adds up. And then you can you give them that link, and anytime they buy from that link lasts 24 hours. So even if they click on your book and they buy your book and your book is $10, you might only get $1 or maybe even less from that. But if they buy something else within that 24-hour period on Amazon, you're going to get a commission off of that as well. So it's basically just a cookie that sits on their computer that denotes and it's got a 24-hour lifespan. So that's what Amazon Associates is. I have used that. I still use it for some of my things. You do have to be careful when it comes to your books on whether you hide URLs or not. So you need to make sure that you acknowledge, especially with the FTC has made it so you have to denote that, like you'll hear in my videos, or you'll see if you read the description where it says some of these links may be affiliate links. They may help me financially. So, that way FTC doesn't come knocking on my door. Anybody have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Again, don't forget that this coming Saturday, especially for those people who came in a little bit later, this Saturday, I have a collab video that I did with Dale L. Roberts of Self-Publishing with Dale. And it's about no content books. And if you don't do no content books, still check it out because it's going to be funny. And again, they're going to be premieres. So we're going to be in there. We're going to be, chatting it up. It's going to start this Saturday, and it'll be this Saturday, November 23rd, I believe. Yeah, 23rd, and it's going to start at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll include a link to that in the show notes later on, and I'll promote it on the Self Publishing Today Facebook group as well. But you guys definitely want to check that out. It's going to be 2-parters. It's going to be his video, and then it's going to roll directly into the premiere of my video. And it was a lot of fun to do. And one thing that makes it even more humorous is we live about 1,000 miles away. So was so much fun to make it. I love working with Dale, so you'll definitely want to check that out. Let's see, and again, for those people who missed it, this will be my last live for the rest of Q4, but I will still be putting out pre-recorded videos. I've got quite a few tutorials that I know you guys have been looking forward to, that including how to make some puzzle pages for puzzle books, and I've got some review videos where I reviewed some software like for making mazes and puzzles, and Book Brush and a bunch of other things. So definitely want to stick around for those in the coming weeks. Let's see. Now, my question to you, have you seen the video I did where I did a KDP unboxing of my debut young adult novel? If you haven't seen that, I'll include a link to that as well, because that was pretty funny. It was my first novel, and I might have even got a little emotional. So I'll include a link to that as well. Any last questions? Okay, so until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler, and remember,